Ladies and gentlemen, ears of corn all over the world, welcome to the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. I am Tom, and I am joined by the one and only Czar of Amber Harkins joins us this evening. Amber, how's it going?
Pretty good. Hanging in there.
Awesome. Love to
Yeah.
hear it. Amber and I go back to our time at York College. Certainly got to know each other, I would say, mostly in the Rhapsody kind of a cappella group, but I've had the misfortune, one would say, of
I was waiting for it. I'm like, man, he's going to try to be nice and it's going to go nowhere.
um, man, I don't even know how to put it into words, but like Amber's one of the ones where we may fall into old habits and say that we truly don't like each other. I'll go ahead and address the elephant in the room right off the bat and say nothing could be further from the truth. You may hear about 5 things from each of us that say otherwise, but there's a lot of love and a lot of caring here, and I'm really very fortunate to be joined by Amber tonight.
Thank you.
And we do know each other from Rhapsody, but Lord knows we spend a lot of time together outside of it in groups, social gatherings, what have you. And what's cool is we've been able to keep in touch. And we're here to tell some stories, reflect on some times, and have some fun. So, Amber, with that in mind,
Yeah.
I always like to plant some seeds, get some origins going. Can you tell me, just in general, what kind of brought you from the great town of Port Deposit to which I have visited, which we'll get to.
Right. Oh boy.
Check that off the bucket list, you know.
Yeah.
And the bucket is a well. No.
Oh man, I love it.
Man. All right. In case you don't know, these things keep me going. But no, in all seriousness, what brought you from Maryland to York, and what kind of led you to kind of the school itself?
So to be completely honest, when I was in high school, I had like zero motivation to go to college. Like, did not plan to go to college. Didn't really know what I wanted to do after high school. I was very much a coaster in high school, which surprises a lot of people because now I have my master's and like I love learning, and I'm like, I don't know where that all came from. So I actually spent the first 2 years after I graduated at a community college nearby, or where I grew up. And my best friend Lauren that I grew up with went to York College, and I was like, it's a great place. I went to visit her many times and I really loved the campus. And I looked into the different programs and I was like, why not? I'll apply. I think I applied to Towson and also got into Towson, but I ultimately went with York. I liked the small feel of it. It just seemed like a very tight-knit community. I liked the size of the classes. And then of course, like being with my best friend I knew that would be awesome to be around her while doing school. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
How many? And maybe this is a super ignorant question, but how many years did you all get to spend together at York?
So when I got there, she was 2 years in because we graduated high school together. So I got to spend 2 years with her, and then I was there another year because you may know this, the music program is a lot of credits.
Yeah.
So for me to complete that, because I didn't have a ton of music credits going into York, I did have some. So it took longer than like the 2 extra years that you would typically do after community college. So, but yeah, I got to spend 2 years with her before she graduated.
Sweet. And what was your major specifically? Obviously within music, but what?
Music education, K through 12. Primary was vocal, secondary was piano.
And so the fact that your primary was a vocal, I'm leading somewhere, but like the fact that your primary was a vocal, that's what necessitated kind of the senior recital that you had to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we were required to do senior recitals in whatever our primary instrument was.
Right on.
Yeah.
First of all, I mean, the truth is, I'm very curious about the process, and I do
Mhm.
kind of want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But just so we don't like turn this into like an encyclopedia kind of talk, you know what I'm saying? Like before you know it, like the listening public feels like they know nothing about Amber, but they suddenly know very much about.
I mean, what do you need to know about me except that I can't stand you?
Right.
Honestly.
There you go. That's one. Boy, oh boy. I would say keep track, but I know you have trouble after the number 5, so we won't bother. Yeah. All right.
That was a good one.
No doubt. No doubt. Be careful you play this with, Amber.
Yeah, right.
So, first of all, I remember your senior recital very vividly. One, I think any one of our friends that had, those recitals, I remember Steve's. To be honest, I remember Ben Frazier's pretty well just because I loved what he was playing.
Me
And Ben's
too.
we weren't even terribly good friends, but it was just like, whoa,
Yeah.
God. But bottom line, everyone that I cared about, I remember their recitals well. But very genuinely, this speaks to both your talent and at least my assessment of your character. I'm not going to pretend to speak for you. But it was very cool in that setting to see you in the forefront. Even having worked with you in Rhapsody, and I say worked with pretty loosely. It was a pretty kind of loose environment. But at the end of the day, we were there to create good music, as you know, and usually we were successful. But I feel like you weren't always very quick to try out for solos and things like that. And not that that's indicative of a quality experience or any talent or anything like that, but it was always, it seemed like you were always very cognizant of a big picture and where you fit in within a group. And one of the coolest things for me to be able to see was a moment where the stage had to be yours, and to see you kind of seize that. And it's not like the talent was a revelation, because that never was. Because I say worked with together in Rhapsody for a reason. I mean, it was a real thing. But it was very cool for me to see kind of a stage be commanded by you. So I, at the very least, wanted to commend you on that, and at least let you know that that stuck out in my mind. Can you kind of speak to, I guess, my assessment, like how that process was for you, prepping for that?
The process actually I enjoyed a lot. As you know, and I know some other people that you've talked to on here have talked about Randy Woodfield. He was my voice teacher, and I mean, just like incredible, like absolutely incredible. He was constantly like boosting my confidence. Because I mean, and like you say, I was never the one to like kind of try and make myself stand out. I was perfectly comfortable just being background noise. Like that's what I wanted. I never wanted attention. If I did, not that everybody else is like seeking attention, but I never needed the spotlight on me. I never felt that way. So the actual process of like practicing and getting ready for it was great. He helped me a lot. He really helped me open up my voice and really learn more about like what I could actually do vocally. There were a lot of pieces that were very challenging, which was kind of the point. I mean, it was definitely the most challenging performances that I've ever done still. So that process was fun, getting to really notice myself opening up more and getting ready for that. The actual performing, like when it came to performing, like absolutely terrifying. And I can tell you, I don't remember a lot from that day. Like I don't, I, I, I still can, like, I still remember a lot of the pieces. And if I heard them, I would be able to sing along. But I have not looked at those pieces like at all since I performed them.
Right.
Just because it was just so much. It was so tiring. It was so much work. I actually got sick like the 2 days or the day before, was like up, like throwing up, like just like absolutely sick. And I was like, I don't know if it was like a stomach bug or if it was just me like panicking and
Right.
like,
Yeah.
so that was not a great way to go into it, because I was like, am I going to recover? Like, am I going to be sick on the day that I have to perform? So yeah, the actual performance was terrifying. But I think, I mean, I think I got my groove after going out, like for the first song. Like I think I was feeling more comfortable after that. But yeah, I honestly don't remember a whole lot from the performance, because it would just kind of became like a muscle memory thing, and trying to focus on like anything but the people staring at me. Like
Expectantly too, you know, like not even passively, just like really like.
yeah, I'm like, let me find a point and just stare at it. But yeah, I mean, the actual process was really fun. I mean, I would not have done a performance like that if I didn't have to. Like,
Right.
there's no way. I'm just not somebody that has ever wanted to just go out and perform like a solo act or anything. That's just not my forte. Um,
Music term, I like that. There you
yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was a lot of fun, and I was very proud of it. When I was done, I was very proud of the work that I put in, and I felt really good about the performance. Um, I have yet to actually listen to it. They record them for you,
Yeah. Wow.
and I have not listened to it.
My goodness.
Yeah, I've been like, it always made me nervous, because I felt really good about it, and I didn't want to listen back and be like, oh, messed up on that note, or oh,
Yeah,
didn't do that rhythm right. Like I wanted to leave it as it was in my mind. Like, oh,
and you're always gonna hear it glass half empty, man.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a surprise for you. I have it here. No, I actually don't have any other questions.
Oh man.
Oh boy. Um, so with that in mind, obviously, there was some, like I said, the talent speaks for itself. You'll have to take my word for on that. But obviously, there's somewhat of a performance bug in you, because you made the venture to try out for Rhapsody. And I always kind of struggle, like you alluded to previous shows. Thankfully, Steve's and my relationship is so much bigger than Rhapsody. It's just like, like that's like a blip. You know what I'm saying? But like,
Mhm.
even in speaking to Greg and Charnel, it's just like, I don't know how to approach Rhapsody, which for me was such a defining part of me socially. Just
Mm.
even music aside, a lot of those just people. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that I'm 31 years old and we're having this conversation now.
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of tough to like encapsulate. Like, hey, what does that group mean to you? Like that's one of those deer in the headlight questions. Um, but I didn't want to not touch on it at all. I will say that I remember the day you auditioned, not because your senior recital, I remember because of the profundity of it. That was very much, that was like your, I don't want to say sentimental, but that was like your very much like, wow, way to go, Amber. But the reason I remember when you tried out for Rhapsody is we have the rehearsals going on, and you have, for some reason, we hadn't met before then. And I don't necessarily know, what the timeline was on that, but genuinely, like, I don't think we met. And if we had, we hadn't said like two words to each other. So I like to think of those as the best days of my life. No,
Yeah, okay.
That one, I'm sorry. That one
That one hurt. That
yeah,
one really hurt.
that one wasn't nice. I'm done. All right, I'm sorry, man. That one wasn't nice at all.
It's all in good fun. I really don't care.
No, but I remember. I'm sorry. I remember. Okay, but I remember we have other people auditioning, and everybody's obviously paying attention to these other people. And to be honest, gun to my head, I couldn't tell you, but I'm sure that like other people also made the group the same semester you made the group. But I remember the whole time other people are auditioning, Caitlin Collins is asking Greg just like, how many more until Amber? You know what I'm saying? And like literally the whole process is just like, yeah, she was pretty good. It's like, is Amber out there yet? And it's just like the whole time it was just like everything. We would like focus on the person in front of us, which is great, which is why we're there. And then you would just hear from like this peanut gallery. It's just like, okay, and Amber will be here at 9. So do we have any between that? And I just remember, I can't look you in the eye and say I was annoyed. I'm genuinely not telling that story at all. But like, it did reach a point where I was just like, who is this Amber?
Yeah,
like,
who is this Amber?
Just like, is she? I mean, I'm sure she's great, but just like, good God, you know. And then like,
and then it was probably like so underwhelming. That's funny. I have never heard. I did not know that. Like, I did not know that.
Yeah. No, it sticks out in my head, you know. And don't get me wrong, like it wasn't like when somebody left, like it would suddenly be like, let's talk about Amber for 3 minutes. But it would be like after everybody went, it would be like 3 seconds of like, is Amber out there yet? And it's just like, you know, like it's like, all right, she'll be here. Text her if you want, you know.
Oh man.
But of course, people getting no service in the Wolf Hall basement, obviously. So.
No, absolutely none.
But yes, I remember that distinctly. And then finally, you walk out, and I'm just, and you can't help but be like, so that's her, you know.
Wow.
No.
I know.
I don't mean that as a good or bad thing. It was
right.
one of those things. I was just like, so I finally put a face to it. You know?
That is so funny.
Yeah, man.
And I was trying to remember, because Brett and I were actually talking about this the other night. I was like, I don't remember. I knew that I did not meet you until Rhapsody. Like, I remember that. I don't have the best memory. So just to preface, like, I forget a lot of things. But I could not remember if you and I had joined the same semester, if I came a semester after you, but now I know.
Right.
I mean, again, and I had actually auditioned before that. I think it may have been the semester that you auditioned. It may have been the same one. Whenever Caitlin started, she and I auditioned together. I convinced her to audition for Rhapsody. And which is weird because I was never somebody to be like, here I am, I'm ready to perform. Like never. But I was excited at the idea of it because I knew that it would just be a fun outlet. I would be able to still practice and use my voice, and it would be great. We auditioned at the same time, and we both got callbacks. And I remember I was so nervous for the callback, and I was also taking like 21 or 22 credits, like something really stupid, like a stupid amount of credits. And I called Jess Carr, and I was like, look, I don't think I'm going to come back for the callback this semester. Like maybe I'll try another semester, because I was afraid, like if I did get in, that it would just be too much on top of everything else. Plus I was incredibly nervous. And I mean, looking back at that now, I'm pretty sure they only needed one soprano. So like, I don't know, like it was either going to be me or Caitlin. So we wouldn't have both gotten in anyway. So that was like a guarantee. Like, I mean, not saying that Caitlin wouldn't have gotten in, but that, like, I did not do the callback. And I mean, that was good for her. So she was
Right.
able to join right away.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the next semester that I tried out again. I was like, I'm ready. And apparently everybody was ready for
Everybody
me.
was ready for you too. Yeah.
Except for you.
I was ready. I was smiling when you were auditioning.
Yeah. Oh man.
Man. Yeah, so that was my kind of experience with that. Nah, man, but obviously good memories there. And one of the things that kind of Rhapsody yielded, in addition to many lifelong memories and lifelong friendships for both you and me, was a pretty distinct nickname that can only be yours. And that is that of the Czar with a C.
Me. Yes, that's me. That's me.
Now, I have to tell you, man, like, prep is a strong word. In any facet of my life, prep is a strong word. But especially for these, it's not like I try to like overthink them. But I was, for the life of me, I was trying to come up with like, why the hell did I ever come up with that? Do you have any insight? Like, I don't have nothing.
I have a little bit, and I was actually thinking about this because I'm like, I have a feeling that this is going to come up in this conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did that start? It was definitely in Rhapsody. It was in a rehearsal. And I am pretty sure that like Caitlin was trying to get everybody to stop talking or something. And I was like, guys, come on. Like, we need to practice. Like, I was just like, let's go. Cause they were like, you guys were not listening to her.
Right.
And I don't know if it was from me being
right.
like snapping my fingers, like, come on, like just being direct. And you were like, all right, Czar. Like, I really just think it was just like a thing you said. And then it just stuck. Like, I know that for sure it happened in a rehearsal where I was like, I don't know, like trying to direct you guys or something.
Right.
No
right.
The other thing I remember is we were talking about the saxophone one time, Greg,
that's where I was at.
Okay, and so I couldn't remember if it was like one or the other, like, or I don't know if they both happened in the same rehearsal. Right. I don't know, but I was very like, no, it's bag fed or whatever the fingerings are.
Oh, no. Don't say whatever. You know what it was. Girl, don't hit me with this. Oh, it might have been this. No, it's bag fed.
It's definitely bag fed, but so I don't remember if it was from that where like I guess I sounded mean when I said it, but I really was just like, no, because somebody was like, wait, what is it again? I'm like, it's bag fed. Like, why don't you know this? But you actually just calling me Czar, like, I don't know why that was the name that you chose.
I don't know either.
So I'm like, I mean, it's not the greatest title.
one of my, it wasn't, I can't even say it was a conversation. It wasn't. Conversation, I think I blacked out immediately, but I just remember you saying to me at one point, like weeks later, saying like, Tom, Ollie, does it have to be Czar with a C? All the ones with a C are all bad people. Like you were like doing some research on them, and I was just like, yes, it has to be the one with the C. And I don't know if that was ever an actual like talk other than that sentence, but like I remember so distinctly that particular exchange of words of just not even saying don't call me Czar anymore, just saying like can it be Czar with a T? And I'm like, no.
That would make like no sense. Like, can we just make up some other story where you're not calling me like a Russian Czar? That would be great.
Oh man. Yes. So my reflections are very similar. I don't necessarily remember vividly the initial reason I called you Czar, but I do remember calling you it, and the fact that you brought up like you trying to rein us in at a rehearsal as kind of the roots for it definitely makes sense. because I do think the tenors were often in their own kind of space sometimes and needed that. And Amber was happy to oblige. Um, I'm so glad you brought up the bag fed. One, for two reasons. For two reasons. One, there you go. I'm a writing major. I genuinely don't know. Here's the truth. And I'm not trying to shift blame. Like, it's on me, rest assured. I don't know if the Czar nickname would have stuck if it wasn't for Greg liking it so much. He was more of a contributing factor to that than he gets credit for, because I say you can talk to my coworkers, you can talk to my friends to this day, and you don't even need to because you know me. Like, I say about 80 random things a day that will make me laugh, and then they'll just turn into dust. You know what I'm saying? Because like nobody else cares, and nor should they. But the Czar thing was one of those things where Greg, for some reason, was like just as smitten with it as I was, and so like whenever there was another moment of, if I'm being honest with, and I say it with all love and all respect, like Amber within the group at least had like very kind of maternal kind of instincts of just like keeping us on track and things like that, you know, and the group needed that, you know, like rest assured, we'd probably fall apart without people filling that role, of which Amber was one. But every time like Amber would have like these moments of just like reeling us in, Greg would just be like, Czar, you know, and I'd be like, haha, yeah, you know, because like I don't need an excuse. I'm just like, damn right, Greg, you know.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Like, yeah, he adopted that and just went for it full force along with you, and it stuck. Oh man.
And the bag fed moment. Specifically, there's a story in the Polo Castro house, all right? And it's when my family first got Wi-Fi, right? And so the password that came with the router was Elegant Piano 047, okay? All right? And there's a reason I remember that so vividly that I'm about to tell you. I'm downstairs setting it up. And Noelle's upstairs, my sister Noelle is upstairs doing some other stuff. And I'm like, Noelle, I need the password. And typically I'll say like these roles are usually reversed. Like Noelle's doing the tech stuff and I'm doing like the outer stuff. But anyway, she's asking me like, what's the password? And I'm like, Elegant Piano 047. And she like can't hear me and she keeps getting it wrong. And so there's a point where like, I swear to God, and you know it's always a little different with family, it is. But I swear to God, like we reached a point where I'm just snarling up the stairs. You know what I'm saying? Just like Elegant Piano 047. And I'm just like, I'm saying this phrase, which is otherwise harmless, with like every bit of malice that I can muster. You know what I'm saying? It still comes up because I was hot, you know? And I was hot saying Elegant Piano of all things. And I was Steve, you know? There was smoke coming out of my ears, you know? And I bring that up because that's what the bag fed wound up being. It started out very simple, just like, oh, it's like bag fed.
Yep. And we would just like randomly say it after that, like not in the context like that it needed to be used. Like, yeah. I remember that moment very well.
Yeah.
I got scalded for it. Yeah. Oh man. Good times.
Man, and there's not much of a story here. There's not. But eventually, Czar, which stands for some sort of king, I guess. I don't know if that's the direct translation. Maybe it just means ruler or something like that.
Yeah.
But eventually, I saw these. I got into kind of a habit of getting slippers for people, and I got Amber some lion slippers for the Czar of the jungle.
Yes.
Yeah, man. And then Amber was kind enough to get me some turtle slippers, which I still have.
Yeah.
And I remember when I had the turtle slippers, when I first got them, I was so convinced, because I'm a quirky dude, and quirky is a kind way to say it, but I was convinced that like when I wore them, I would intentionally walk slower, you know, and just like pretend they were actual turtles. And then I remember like I had them on one day and I was like walking slow, and then like I realized like nobody was even around me. You know what I'm saying? Like I was just doing it alone for my own benefit, and literally, I'm paraphrasing, but like out loud, I said to myself, I was like, "Oh fuck this, man! Like I gotta," I was like, I gotta get out of this." So I stopped. I stopped holding myself to that standard, man. It got a little weird, but
That's awesome.
the turtles themselves are still very much a part of my wintertime wardrobe, we'll
Nice,
say.
nice.
Um, yeah.
Oh man.
Amber, I'm going to take us out of Pennsylvania real quick.
Okay.
I don't remember the context terribly well, and maybe you can fill me in after. But one of my favorite stories, one that I hope you remember, but it is one of my favorite stories. You used to spend some time in the summers on Long Island.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember the context of that. What in very quickly? What did bring you out to the island over the summers?
So yeah, it was just 2 summers. The one after I graduated from York. Well, actually, I graduated in December, and then I stayed in the York area and subbed a little bit, and then went to Long Island, stayed with Caitlin and her family, and we worked at a day camp in the Hamptons.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So we did that, and then I did the same thing the following summer.
Right on.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. The first summer Amber does this, I happen to know, and that's just like staying friends with Caitlin, staying friends with Amber. I happen to know that like she's on the island, and I think we like met up like maybe once or twice as like trio and just like groups of people. Caitlin had me over one day. The second summer, I didn't know that Amber was there. Okay, and so this is going to ostracize some people that don't live on Long Island, but I can count on one hand. I swear to God, I've only gone out in Port Jefferson to grab a drink.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Okay. I've only gone out to Port Jefferson to grab a drink twice in my life. Okay. I have been down to Port Jefferson probably about 500 times in my life. The difference between those 2 times and the other times is either you're not there for a night on the town, so you don't go into any bars, or you're there to have a night out. And that doesn't mean that you're chugging or this, that, or the other thing, but it does mean that you're there to see where the night takes you. You know what I'm saying? But this was one of, I swear to God, 2 times in Port Jefferson where I was just there to like, I was there with a buddy and I was just like, hey man, like let's catch up. It's been a while. I'm there to like talk to my bud, you know? And part of the reason I think, just for anyone who's remotely curious, part of the reason I think Port Jeff has never represented that chill spot for me is because it's so close to where I grew up. So it's always kind of had connotations of just like high school reunions, whether you want them or not. You know what I'm saying? There are young and dumber mistakes that have been made there. You know, it's just not, it's not the same place to me. You know what I'm saying? There are other places on Long Island I would go now that I've matured a little bit, I guess. Anyway, so this is one of those 2 times where I'm literally just like, I may be in a bar and the bar may be crowded, but I'm like looking at my buddy Rich the way I'm talking to Amber now, you know, like there's nobody else there. Suddenly, I happen to be wearing my Rhapsody shirt, and this girl comes up to me, and this girl is totally fine, totally in line, nothing sloppy or anything like that at all. But like, it's clear that this girl has been drinking a little bit, and she's just like, "Hey, your shirt," and like she literally says it like that, and it's like, "Oh, hey, like, hey, like, how are you? Yep, it's a nice shirt. I like this shirt too." She's like, "My friend has that shirt," and at this point, like, I'm just like, okay, like, I think 13 people in the whole world have this shirt, but I'm just like, all right, like, cool. I'm like, that's nice, like, and I'm kind of, and she's like, no, she really does. Like, I don't, and I'm just like, cool, like, nice, and then so like finally, like, she like walks away, and I'm talking to Rich, and I'm just like, like, I'm just like, okay, like, that was kind of weird or whatever. And then lo and behold, like 2 minutes later, Amber and Caitlin like turn the corner, and one of you is wearing the same freaking Rhapsody shirt. I just remember, like, boy, man, did I just eat crow or what? You know what I'm saying? And man, I don't know if there's much of a story to be told, but I'm a little curious. Like, on the flip side of that, like, was there? I swear on a stack of Bibles, I wasn't annoyed, but I was like very much just like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there for the conversation either. That's just me being honest about it.
Yeah.
Was there like a flip side of that where you were just like, I'm pretty sure that guy's not wearing our shirt right now?
I honestly, like, until you just brought the story up, I completely forgot that this had happened. And we were out for Caitlin's best friend, Christine. I think it was her birthday.
Okay.
So we were out celebrating. Literally the only time I've ever been to Fort Jeff, like, ever. That I think, at least. Yeah, I don't remember. I do, obviously, like, from you telling the story, remember that we saw you there, and then like we got to talk and catch up a little bit, but I don't remember much else.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, we were also out celebrating.
Yeah.
And I can picture the bar that we were in, like, when we saw you. But I know that we had stopped at a couple other places first.
Sure.
So.
Right on. Fair enough.
I do not remember the Rhapsody shirt thing, and I don't even remember who it was that talked to you about it. It might have been Christine.
I feel like it was her. But yeah, bottom line, it was very cool to see some friends from college kind of turn the corner.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, like, totally unexpected.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Like, we didn't talk about it a ton, but I remember leaving the bar with Rich, and Rich was kind of like, what just happened there? And I'm just like, yeah, man, I don't know. I'm like, I don't really know either, man. But yeah, those are my good friends, actually. Anyway, Amber, there's a story I was hoping you'd be able to tell me, and it's a story that I wasn't there for, but it's a story that I'm quite entertained by. Can you tell me? Can you tell me from your teaching days about the kid who made the announcements when he was rooting for the Ravens?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, I mean, there's really not a whole lot to this.
I just kind of want to see you make the noise, I think.
This kid was so sweet. I actually did not have him. So he actually was not a student of mine, but he obviously went to the school. And okay, so this was when I worked, this was my last teaching job in a school, was working at St. Elizabeth's, and all the students are special needs students, and it's in Maryland. So they're very big on, like, when it's baseball season, we wear Orioles stuff on Friday if you want. Football season, you can wear purple. Like, a lot of people would wear purple or their Raven shirts, whatever. But every Friday, this kid would do the morning announcements, or he would do part of it. And at the end, he would always, I can't. I mean, it's probably like people listening that are going to listen to this are going to be like, why is this even so funny?
We'll know. It's not for anybody else.
Yeah, but he would always just say, like, go Ravens, call! Every Friday. So loud into the microphone, and like it always made me laugh.
Yeah, man. That's what it's all about. I swear to God, I've adopted that. Like I don't get a lot of football Sundays and just sit and watch. I really don't. But
Yeah.
a few times I do, and the Ravens are on. Like I literally do say to myself before kickoff, I'm like, "Go Ravens!" God, you know.
No, but see, I mean, you got to get into the higher pitch,
Right.
right? Caw! I
Yeah.
mean, you have to.
All right. I'll give you one. You were a good sport, and you did it once. All right. Go Ravens! Caw!
Nice. Perfect.
That's how they did. Right on. That's called improv, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Now, Amber, I would love to hear a little bit about what you're doing now.
Okay.
Listeners of this by now know that my previous professional experience is very deeply rooted in international student exchange, and I wound up running the Canadian program that sent kids from around the world, to Canada. But I was also very involved in kind of the J1 visa side, which would bring kids from around the world to schools in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
My point in saying all that is there was a time in my life where getting to know things like the SLEP and the ELTIS and those kind of language tests, and getting a chance to interview a lot of these young men and women who were looking to hop abroad to study. Admittedly, my experience was more high school age, but you certainly develop a very deep understanding and appreciation for English as a second language. And to be honest, I don't recall kind of the age group with which you're working. I think the stuff behind you kind of demonstrates that it might be kind of younger than what I was used to. But I would love to hear kind of what you're doing now, because I think it's a very, very cool kind of pursuit. It's in value, and I give anybody who kind of ventures to bridge that gap for kids. I have a lot of respect for that, and I kind of want to hear about what it is you do, and B, what kind of got you to that. Maybe has your perspective been changed in kind of a similar way as a result?
Yeah. So I work for an ESL company called VIP Kid. It is a company based out of China, and so I work with primarily Chinese students. They have just started working with students in South Korea as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it is exactly what it sounds like. I teach ESL lessons.
Amber, you're really good at this.
I teach ESL lessons to kids who are living in China, Chinese students, and yeah, primarily right now I do in the company. I currently teach level 1 and 2, which are the lower ages. So I could work with a student anywhere from age 3 to roughly, like, I think the oldest I've had is like 13. But level 1 and 2 are like the lower levels of like what they already know in English. So they're beginners. There is a lot to work on with getting them, more familiar just with basic, like saying their name in English, understanding questions, just things like that. But yeah, so I do that. Honestly, it started because I was pregnant with Nolan. At the time, I worked up until my due date. And I was working in Baltimore area, driving there every day. I'd been doing that for 5 years. I loved it. I loved my job there. Loved the people that I worked with. It became very stressful to a certain degree. for a lot of different reasons, but I'll just leave it at it became very stressful, especially when I was pregnant, making that drive and doing that all day, working with kids that had special needs all day, became very exhausting for me. But I still loved it, enjoyed it a lot. Ultimately, Brett and I talked and decided that I would not be going back after I had Nolan, which was a really hard decision for me. I still considered it. Right before Nolan turned like 3 months was like when I had to officially give them my resignation letter. And I still considered going back, and Brett convinced me, like it probably wasn't the best idea. It would be really long days when I was still like getting up in the middle of the night with an infant and, doing all that stuff. So anyway, so for the first year of Nolan's life, I was just home and taking care of him. And then a friend or a coworker that I had worked with at the school was doing this job. And I saw her post something about it and just asked her some questions. And I remember looking into them when I was still working at the school, because I thought about doing it part-time. When I was still working, decided the hours were not going to work because I would be getting up even earlier than I already was. And then still going to teach full-time. And so anyway, so I looked into it and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like I'm at home already. I can try and do it part-time just to bring in some extra cash. And it kind of went from there. And I've been doing it now for like a year and a half, I think. It will be 2 years in November.
My only quick question: do you like see kids through to like a level 3, or is it like I'm working with you this week and then you're working with somebody else?
So this is the unique thing about this company is I am considered an independent contractor or an independent and I had to think about that.
Right.
Yeah. So, I'm like, yes, I am. So the kids the parents will book classes with me, and there are some students I've seen one time and will like never see them again.
Right.
So to answer your question, yes and no. There are some students that will continue to book me and I become like their regular teacher if that's what the parents want. Or like some students will switch between 2 teachers. So like I have some students where they see one teacher on like one day of the week and then they see me on another day of the week, and they continue that. So yeah, there are a lot of students that I've had them like since they started, and I will teach them all the way to level 3. As long as they continue to book me. So it's like I could get a student that's starting in the middle of level 2, but like at this point I've taught like every single lesson and every level, and am very familiar with the materials. So that's the other thing. I do not have to prep.
Yeah.
Just like probably was my biggest stressor, because I was teaching roughly 10 different grade levels at the school that I was in. So like not having to prep that stuff has been life-changing for me. So yeah, so to answer your question, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. It just kind of depends. I pick up new students all the time.
And then I'm done after this. This is like, we're getting deep now, but who decides when they're ready to go to level 3?
So they go through, so in each level, there are 12 units, and it depends on the level. Level 1's a little bit different. There are less lessons per unit. But level 2, there's like typically 12 lessons in every unit. So they'll go through each unit. They're tested twice in each unit. I feel like I'm saying unit a lot, but it's just what it is. So I mean, they just have to like we give feedback. I have to give feedback for every single lesson that I teach. So I'm giving the parents feedback on things that they need to work on, and like there are things to like say like what they're struggling in, and they have learning partners in China that are working with the parents. So if the parent or if the kids are constantly coming up as struggling in these different areas, the learning partner may like have them retest to see where their starting point is, to see like, you know, do they need to move back a couple units to go back through, or can we keep pushing them forward? Typically it's just they just go lesson to lesson until they get to the end of that level, and then they move on to the next level. Yeah.
So I used to have to speak to kids as well, but my goal was never to teach them. It was more to kind of see where they're at and see if they were ready to be taught here in the U.S.
Okay.
So it was a kind of a different set of goals. I remember there was one time I got to interview a girl from the U.S. to see if she was ready to go to Australia. And that was freaking awesome because one, like, we're both fluent. Two,
right.
it just turned into just like a talk. Like I remember we were having such fun with it, you know, because she was bright, she was cool. And we're having such fun. I wound up telling her a story about the time, I'm throwing her under the bus, but whatever. My sister Noelle got out of this kayak at the wrong time, and I was telling Noelle, just like, okay, Noelle, you should get out now, and she's like, no, not yet, like, because we're trying not to get hit by a wave. I'm like, Noelle, get out now, and then literally she starts. I'm like, okay, well, not anymore, and then she starts to get out. I'm like, Noelle, don't get out anymore, and then we wind up getting hit by the wave, and we both fall. And I just remember so distinctly, like, I'm laughing so hysterically. And thank God this girl who's like 16 is laughing too, you know, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm sorry. I just felt like telling that story. Like, your interview is fine, you know? And she's just like, oh, thanks, Tom, you know? And I'm just like, all right. Anyway, but awesome. The other story I do remember, one, I spoke to this one kid from China, and it was clear he was using some thesaurus, you know, which you can tell that they do, especially with letters, you know, that they write. And the kid, and it's clear he didn't mean it, but he didn't know any better. He was looking up, this is my dog, right? But hey, man, everybody knows what a dog is. This is my female dog. Yeah. So he was saying, like, this is my B word, and I'm just like, oh, you know, like, oh
no.
And then, last but not least, Brett might like this story, to be honest. I'm gonna butcher this so bad, okay? Please do not take my words here to the bank, but it's something like this. In Thailand, once you reach like a certain age, you can pick like what you want your English name to be, okay? And I don't know how formal that is. I don't know if there's a certain age to it, but bottom line, these individuals in Thailand reach a point where it's just like, what do you want to be called? And so you meet all these people, and their names, with all respect, you know, their real names are like these super long, like multiple syllabic names, okay? But their names wind up being like, call me guitar, call me omelet, call me, you know, like some of them it's because if they mean something to them, and other times they just think it sounds cool, you know?
Right.
And I remember I'm interviewing this one kid, and I say his real name once, you know, best I can. And I'm just like, what should I call you? And he's like, I like basketball, so call me Durant. So I literally say to him, and these are not the most formal thing in the world, because you're meant to be like talking to kids and make them feel comfortable. But It's also like, you know, people would never know it now, but like it's also, you're very formal, you know, like I'm wearing a tie at the time, you know, like I'm Mr. Castro that day, you know. And literally I say, like he says, like, I like basketball, I like, call me Durant, and I say, at that quote, I'm like, oh yeah, bro. And as soon as it pops out of my mouth, I'm just like, oh, like, I mean, like, oh, that's cool. Like, I was, but my knee-jerk reaction was like, are you sure you're ready for that, man?
Yeah. I have come across some very interesting English names that a lot of the kids have picked. Some of them do not will not go by any English names. They'll go by their actual name. But yeah, there are many there are some fun ones. There are a lot of babies, like just like baby. Brett's favorite. he says that this is his favorite student. Like, obviously has never met her, doesn't know anything about her. Her name, she chose the name Boots, which, like, I can only assume is from Dora. There's the monkey Boots from Dora the Explorer. But, like, he's always like, how is Boots? Boots! And I'm like, what? Like, you didn't even know anything about her. And also, it was not great. Yeah. I've had some I'm trying to think of some other good ones, but yeah, they come up with all kinds of stuff. And you're right, it is just stuff that they like.
Yeah.
There are a lot of kids that go by like superhero names. Like there's just like Iron Man, and I'm like, oh, my name is Iron Man. I'm like, okay. Nice to meet you, Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's fun though. It's
Those
a lot
are
of
always
fun.
some cool talks, man. Yeah. Yeah. Shoot.
It's interesting. I will say, like, this is not something that I ever saw myself doing. But I do, like I said, I was still teaching music before, but in a special education setting, which I loved. That was like the ultimate crossover job for me. Like I love working in special education. I got my master's in special education. And I find that I use a lot of the same techniques working with these kids, which is really great because I have to have the same like very clear instructions, not a lot of incidental language. I can be very patient. I'm used to waiting for responses from working with my students before. So it's been interesting because it's not something that I ever saw myself doing, and I really am enjoying it for the time being. It's a very part-time job for me right now, just because the hours are kind of crazy.
Yeah.
We're 12 hours behind China, so it's just some mornings are really, really hard, and then I just go right from this to being with Nolan all day, and it can be really exhausting, but I love that I get to still do something other than just be a mom, which I know that might come across the wrong way, but I was so excited when I started this because I'm like, I love teaching. It's always been a passion for me, and so it's good for now. It's definitely not something I'm going to do forever. But yeah, it's fun. I'm so glad that I came across it, and it's been great.
Now, Amber, Lord knows I couldn't let you go without saying Clyde Northcutt.
Yes.
I've never seen that movie since, but I for some reason, obviously that name sticks out. And also, man, all right, you'll have to take my word for it. I sound like I'm poking fun at you, which for once I'm not. The show with James, we talked about how I drove in Canada, and there was a point where I was in a roundabout, and I didn't realize it was a roundabout, so I almost got us hit by a car. Okay, that happened. All right. So I've done it too, but I also remember one time you were kind enough to drive me to the train station, and we're in Harrisburg or someplace, and I just see you start to make a turn. And do you remember? Oh no! Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Oh
this,
no!
But I mean, I totally believe it.
I just remember Amber starts to make this turn, And I'm like, one way. And then Amber's like, oh, and she makes the right and she redeems it. But I swear to you, the only reason I bring it up now is I happened to, by total chance, find that Dr. Seuss clip of the Grinch and the Cat in the Hat, and the Grinch was going the wrong way on the road, and he was like refusing to believe he was going the wrong way. And he was like, "Get this out of my way," and it was so perfect for like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I guess if
it's okay.
That's not the best, but I gotta see if I can find that video again and send it to you, because literally that was the funniest thing, that I happened to see that video like 2 days after. Anyway, man, I'm done.
Oh man.
Man, Amber, was there anything else specifically? I hate that that's the note we leave on, but everybody who's listening, which is probably only 5 people, like, you have to take my word for it. Like, I'm not poking fun of Amber for almost going the wrong way on the road. Like, good Lord, if you're not familiar with the city, like, things happen, all right?
Yeah.
But the fact that I saw this Dr. Seuss video like 2 days afterwards was like the biggest like light bulb in the world that got off in my head, and it was so cool. And I'm about to, as soon as I hang up this call, I'm about to go try and find it. But anyway, Amber, is there anything else you wanted to cover before we say goodnight?
Well, I mean, speaking of like going places and like us meeting up, do you remember when you came to Philly when I was working in Chester, and like you came to the train station, and there was probably like a half an hour time like where we were trying to figure out, like I was trying to figure out where you were and you were trying to figure out where I was.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
Vaguely.
Like you came into the train station, which the train station, and like anybody that knows where the train station in Philadelphia is, it's a gigantic building.
Yes.
Like,
okay. No.
Cannot miss it.
I remember. Yes.
Okay. So I had never been to the train station before, and I don't think I told you this ahead of time. Like, I literally had no idea where it was. Not a clue. And I put it in my GPS, and it's like, you have arrived. I'm like, great. I'm gonna try and find parking. I'll call Polly, tell him I'm here. No idea that this giant building, like a block away, is the train station. Because the way I come into, I don't pass, like the way that I was coming into the city, I didn't pass it. It was just like ahead of me. And I was just like, I just was thinking about this the other day, like laughing hysterically, thinking like, I'm like, Polly, I'm here. And you're like, where? And I'm like, I'm here. Apparently I'm here and I don't know. And I was like looking, and you're like, okay, I'm walking in this direction. And like, just the two of us started to figure out. I have never now Brett and I go into Philly a lot to see shows and stuff. And like, every time we leave Philly, we come right up on the train station, and I think about it every single time because I'm like, that building is so big. Like, how did I not realize that could be a train station?
Oh, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I have arrived. This is on you.
My GPS says I'm here, so.
No,
oh man,
and that was such a cool visit too.
That was a fun day.
Yeah, dude. Day. Oh man, right on.
And I couldn't remember like if that was just like a random, like you were like, hey, I'm coming to visit, or like you were going to be in the area for something else.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember.
I think it was. I think I was on my way to York or something. I don't necessarily know, but I think I had like the day in Philly before. And I just kind of thrown out like, hey man, like I'm gonna be there if anybody wants to. For some reason we connected, and yeah man, that was such a cool little visit. Oh shoot, man, I'm so glad you brought that up. I haven't thought.
Yeah.
Right on.
That was fun.
We saw a bunch of the history stuff, and
yeah, I think we saw the Liberty Bell.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my Dirk Nowitzki jersey was complimented all the time. And I remember that well. Oh, man. Cool. Yes, that was a lovely
good time.
Once we found each other. Yes, indeed. Oh, I do remember. One thing I do remember about that trip is this might not translate well, but it was, if you were there, it was quite funny. I didn't realize you were saying Center City. I thought you were saying Sinner City.
Oh.
And I just remember thinking, like, in my head, I'm just like, is this some slang that I don't know about that you keep saying this? And so I finally confessed to Amber. I was just like, look, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, you know? And we kind of sort out that, like, oh, I was saying Center City. And I'm like, oh, not Center City. Like, how foolish would that be? And then I swear to God, the first thing we see is like a triple X theater, and that we keep moving. And I'm just like, oh my God. It was literally one of those, like, Center City, how foolish.
I remember that. Yeah, that's so
As soon as we resolve that we're not talking about a city full of sins, we just casually look to our right, and it's just the last thing. It's like, okay, we're gonna keep going now. Yeah.
Perfect.
Man, what a tremendous time.
Yeah,
I
that's
want to
great.
thank you so much for spending the evening with me. It was so cool to catch up. And shoot, man, I'm sure that within the next day we're gonna go back to saying I don't like you at all. But let it be known, your friendship means the world to me, and it's been really cool to have a lifetime worth of memories with you. And it's been cool to talk about just a couple of them here tonight.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, everyone who's listening, all three of you, this has been the Chronicles. The search continues. My guest this evening has been the Czar herself, Zamber. That's cool. I like that. I like that better, to be honest. That's about to be a Thai name, I think.
Can we make it Zamber without a C, please?
We can. We've matured. We've reached that level, man. All right, so this has been Zamber Harkins joining me this evening. Thank you for a very special time, and thank you all for listening. Wish you all the very best. All right, have a good one.